While we're on the subject of my mistakes, I'd also like to recommend that you do your public transport in stages. I did it rather late in my main city and added stops haphazardly, which led
When you first begin playing, I suggest you take a few moments in the training mode to become familiar with the controls. Here you can take open shots at the goalkeeper or practice your passing and free kicks.
One part of the game that didn't particularly wow me, but still made sense from a story standpoint, is that you have to do certain things when you're playing as certain characters. For instance, when you're playing as yourself, you'll have to mine gold to buy weapons, healing herbs, and other goodies you'll need to progress in the game. Hello and welcome to Worldwide Gaming. I'm your host Damien. Join us this week as Jarryd reviews City Skylines and Hard West, Jordan goes through the top 10 game soundtracks, and Regan gives us a look at FIFA 16.
This racing game is looking to dethrone both Gran Turismo and Forza when it releases for PS4 and Xbox One soon. Designed to be a very realistic racing experience, Assetto Corsa is focused on extensive customization and modifiability. This reboot of Carmageddon from 1997 takes the old formula of smashing cars and crushing people and gives it a new paint job. Players will compete by gaining points through hitting each other and ploughing through crowds. The game is releasing June 3rd for PS4 and Xbox One. This platformer follows the story of the last human who wakes from an eternal sleep to find a very different Earth. Promising twitchy retro gameplay, a deep combat system, and intense boss battles, it's out soon for Xbox One and PS4.
Early in 2015, we saw the release of the aptly named building simulator City Skylines, developed by Finnish studio Colossal Order and published by Paradox Interactive. At first glance, City seems to be set as a direct competitor to genre heavyweight SimCity, but have Colossal Order laid a strong enough foundation to take on the champion? As you'd expect from a city building game, your overarching goal is to build and successfully maintain a thriving city. It plays almost identically to 2013 SimCity in that you pick an area that appeals to you, connect it to the outer world, and begin constructing what will hopefully be a city envied by all. City Skylines has a lot of familiar features, and even a few its competitor doesn't. One feature I particularly liked was being able to expand the area my city occupied if I wanted to maintain a single sprawling city, which I much preferred to SimCity's multiple, interconnected, but most importantly, smaller cities. While there was nothing inherently wrong with the Maxis approach, I found the idea of setting aside areas for greenery much more appealing than cramming infrastructure into every nook and cranny. Constructing your city feels good, and the only real complaints I have with the process is a lack of depth perception and that it can be a little difficult to see what you're building at night. Both issues can lead to the occasional misplaced road or building, which are minor gripes for all but the most hardcore perfectionist. Otherwise, it all feels pretty solid in terms of what's available, how scalable it is, and how it functions. Building should be as painless as possible, and Colossal Order have pulled that feat off particularly well. The ability to build roads over things is also a welcome feature, and it gives a sense of verticality that other titles can lack. Early on in my city construction career, I ran into an issue that sent my first city into a spiral of bankruptcy. Unsurprisingly, this issue could have been avoided if I'd taken the time to read descriptions. When it comes to roads, you have a list of available types, from your generic tarmac through to 6-lane highways with sound barriers. What I hadn't noticed was that the two arrows meant that it was a one-way road, which in hindsight is pretty obvious, but I took it to mean 2 lanes and built it literally everywhere. What I ended up with was a city where no one could access anything. Let this be a lesson to you if you play this game. Those descriptions are there to help you not make those mistakes. While we're on the subject of my mistakes, I'd also like to recommend that you do your public transport in stages. I did it rather late in my main city and added stops haphazardly, which led to a lot of routes that were unfinished. It's worth noting that there's no autocomplete feature for a round trip, so if you've made hundreds of stops and forget where it all started, you'll probably find yourself removing the entire trip and starting over. One feature I would have liked to see for roads is a larger variety of roundabouts, particularly smaller ones that we see around our cities. All I had access to were the interstate monstrosities that gobble up entire areas. City management seems to vary a lot, both in comparison to Colossal Order's older titles, as well as other genre entries like SimCity. On one hand, there's the massive undertaking of keeping all your zones and areas happy in a variety of areas like garbage, dead bodies, and fire trucks. On the other hand, there's a distinct lack of macro management. I'd like to see features enabling control over importing and exporting to fine-tune how things function, and the ability to expand buildings like colleges, rather than having to spend a large chunk of city funds to build a second school for more people. They sound like minor issues, but it would really help manage smaller cities and areas. This apparent cutting back of management options makes the game more accessible to those who would rather build than manage, but I'd like to have seen more depth in this area, particularly when you realise that Colossal Order's previous title, Cities in Motion, is steeped in management minutiae like setting timetables for public transport. A better approach might have been to have those features as an optional toggle, so I could feel like there's more of a challenge in running my city, rather than my current approach, which is just to sprawl out further so I have something new to do. While Skylines' aesthetic is not an original one, it is unique in how well they've pulled the look off and have really made it their own. The game uses a depth of field similar to a tilt-shift lens, which gives the whole thing the appearance of a model town, and I haven't really gotten tired of looking at it yet. While the models aren't over-the-top polygonal masterpieces, they do fit perfectly in their surrounds, and give what I assume is the exact feel the developers wanted. It's clean and it runs well. I couldn't really ask for more. In a giant middle finger gesture to EA, whether intentional or not, Cities includes workshop support and boasts a robust community who are constantly adding new content, for free. I've discovered that pretty much any issue I've had with the game so far can be resolved by downloading workshop content. For instance, the issues I had with public transport can be completely negated with the Auto Line Color mod, which automatically picks colours and names for bus, metro and train lines. Or I could add the Traffic++ mod, to add more complexity to roads by zoning lanes for certain kinds of traffic or speed limits, and even pedestrianising other roads to cause the traffic to move at a more sedate pace. There's also plenty of scenic or proof of concept mods. If you're a GTA fan, you'll want to check out the Los Santos mod, which is a pretty accurate reproduction of the city. Or if you're a masochist with a yen for some beautiful scenery, you'll want to check out the Norway map, which has a name I'm not even going to attempt to butcher. It's super pretty, but also super hard to manage. The community is very active, and there's obviously a lot of love for this game. For the serial tinkerers, there's going to be oodles of playtime spent just checking out what fellow gamers have managed to create. It's great stuff. If you've never jumped on the SimCity bandwagon because of the issues that plagued its release, or if you've already played it to death and you're looking for more, Cities Skylines is a very strong contender for the contents of your wallet. The game looks great, plays really well, and aside from some minor gripes I have with the feature list, which are easily alleviated by the addition of Steam Workshop support, I'm finding it really difficult to put down. Welcome back from the break, guys. Join us now as Jordan takes a look at the top 10 game soundtracks.
Mortal Kombat. The Mortal Kombat series has seen some decent tracks, however the most memorable of the series derives not from the 10 main series games, but rather from the film. The first film, try to repress those memories of Annihilation and remember the amazing Mortal Kombat theme. The Sims. The Sims soundtrack is nobody's favourite soundtrack, but definitely one that, due to the game's addictive nature as well as the ridiculous amount of hours spent playing the game, will creep up on you. Shadow of the Colossus, this epic yet tranquil soundtrack befitting for such an epic and heartbreakingly tragic game, sees the music carrying the weight of the heavy themes presented within it consistently and beautifully within the title on a colossal scale. Journey, a game transfixed upon exploration, sees Journey's soundtrack fueled with adventure within its unique indie design. The beauty of the game is reflected through the melodic nature of its many peace-inducing, subduing tracks. Sonic Adventure 2, perhaps the Dreamcast's most iconic game, Sonic Adventure 2 sported an amazing soundtrack of mostly electronic beats, with City Escape featuring one of the greatest stage themes gaming has ever known. Bastion, an alternative acoustic, electric and Mexican themed soundtrack. The music of Bastion forms the mood of the game to create an electric Western-themed world of addicting confusion, mystery, intrigue and adventure. Crash to Insanity, one of the Bandicoot's better titles since Naughty Dog's departure from PlayStation's once beloved franchise. To Insanity features a tropical, bopping, positively fueled soundtrack composed of some amazing tracks to brighten any day. Ni no Kuni, a game released by the legendary anime film company Studio Ghibli. Ni no Kuni saw music from Japanese icon Joe Hisaishi. Ni no Kuni became an amazing award-winning title which saw many gamers pause, listening to the many classically crafted symphonic works within the game. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, one of the most iconic games of all time heralded from the silver era of gaming, Ocarina of Time separated itself from predecessors to become one of gaming's all-time greatest. Embodied within lies the epic soundtrack, with the Hyrule theme serving as a prime example. Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. Square Enix is responsible for many of video gaming's greatest soundtracks. My personal favourite soundtrack lies within the Kingdom Hearts series. Days only features 13 songs, however each one shines greatly, showcasing the talent of Yoko Shimomura.
Hey guys, I'm Regan from Worldwide Gaming, and today I'm going to walk you through the popular sports game FIFA 16. FIFA is a hugely successful series based on the sport soccer, with another edition made each year by EA Sports in Vancouver, Canada. FIFA 16 immerses their audience in the game, which as their slogan states, allows you to play beautiful. Although EA Sports promised to make large changes from the past editions of the game, they have fell short in delivering this. In graphical terms, it's almost identical to FIFA 15. This came as a shock to most of the audience since they were promised change. As you can see, the graphics and animations are basically the same, but with this being said, there are some good changes to the game. These changes mostly include a few new teams, features in game modes, and a whole new game mode. Although there was some change to the game, it is not enough to satisfy the needs of the audience and to convince them to purchase the new game. In spite of the graphics not being adjusted since the last game, the audio has taken a step up using crowd behaviours such as fans cheering when a goal has been scored or being quiet when their team is losing. In FIFA 16, EA Sports have included the ability to play as women national teams, and although this is a great idea which was well marketed with the Women's World Cup, it is limited to only 2 game modes. When you first begin playing, I suggest you take a few moments in the training mode to become familiar with the controls. Here you can take open shots at the goalkeeper or practice your passing and free kicks. Once you are familiar with the controls, it's time to jump into a match to test your ability on the field. FIFA 16 includes more than 650 playable teams from across over 30 different leagues. When creating your own match against the AI, you can change the difficulty, change gameplay sliders, and plenty of extended options such as picking which ball you want to play with. Once you are getting into the game, you may want to take a challenge. Tournament mode allows you to play as a single team or multiple teams in a tournament where you play against AI teams for a chance to win silverware. This will test your ability against a range of different opponents, which leads on to another game mode, Career Mode. Career Mode is one of the main reasons millions of people purchase FIFA each year. This game mode allows you to manage a team or play as a single player. As a manager, you can train your existing team, pay wages, release players, purchase players, and even create your own youth squad that consists of randomly generated players with a range of different abilities and potentials. In the Be a Pro mode, you can play as your own player and transfer to different teams, train your player, and play for your national team. This game mode has a huge amount of potential that is still yet to be captured by EA Sports. If you feel like the computer is becoming too easy, you can test yourself against the online community in Ultimate Team. Ultimate Team is the most popular game mode in the FIFA series and consists of making your way up the divisions online or offline. You can also purchase your own players to create your own club to fight for promotion in these divisions. This game mode is also an extra way for EA to increase income in the form of microtransactions to buy the best players or playing FIFA Ultimate Team Draft, which is a way to select your own amazing team to play in a small tournament. When playing online, the gameplay will become faster and harder. Just make sure you don't score too quickly or you may not have an opponent for too long. During Ultimate Team, you can expand your knowledge of the game by collecting new players and seeing what works for you. Finally, there is Pro Clubs. This game mode is similar to Be a Pro in Career Mode, except you play with other people online. You can create your own player and join an online club with friends, or play in a drop-in match with random people across the world. This is one of the most exciting game modes, as it allows players to get a taste of what it's like forming their own club to play competitively. All in all, this game is an exciting new addition to the FIFA series and can cater for a range of different people with different playing needs. I've been Regan from Worldwide Gaming, and today you've been introduced to FIFA 16.
The Old West was a hard place. The only thing in abundance was poverty and firearms.
I'm a huge fan of both spaghetti westerns and Lovecraftian-inspired horror. I mention this so you can understand the context when I say I was beyond delighted when I discovered Hard West by developer Playway. This successfully kickstarted title takes both elements and successfully mashes them together to create a game that is both interesting and fun. Hard West is a turn-based tactical game that will evoke visions of a Wild West-themed XCOM as soon as you get into the combat. While there are many similarities, Hard West expands beyond XCOM's shooting mechanics with scope shots, planned ricochets, and even a cone targeting system for shotguns, so you can try and hit everything in your way. If you've seen it in a Western, there's a pretty good chance you can try and replicate it here. In XCOM, it was almost always a good idea to leave members of your squad on Overwatch to take shots of opportunity against your enemies. Unfortunately, only your enemies get to do that here, as you won't be able to set Overwatch with any of your characters. While this does make for a faster feeling game during the enemy movement phases, I did find myself often wishing Playway had included the ability for me to take advantage of my enemy moving between cover. The campaign is split into various scenarios, with the main one featuring you and your father at least initially. As you progress, the story becomes more about you and your life. However, Hard West injects some variety into the story arc with some alternate scenarios available. They're optional but offer stories told from different viewpoints. Some of these scenarios are set in the past, while others will run concurrently with your story. While they're not necessary to play, they do add to the tapestry of the world you inhabit, and will also add to your time spent with the title. One part of the game that didn't particularly wow me, but still made sense from a story standpoint, is that you have to do certain things when you're playing as certain characters. For instance, when you're playing as yourself, you'll have to mine gold to buy weapons, healing herbs, and other goodies you'll need to progress in the game. It does a reasonable job at breaking up the gameplay, but it does feel a little anemic with most of these elements related to you in text form. Many of these activities feel like fetch quests, tasking you with finding a particular person to talk to, who will then send you out to obtain something you need to bring back. Worry not, as they're not all cut from the same cloth, and some of these activities can be quite interesting.
At last, Florence was free.
Hard West's biggest draw card is the combat. This is where the game really hits its stride, and each encounter feels convincingly like the last shootout you'll ever be in. As I mentioned previously, the game plays a lot like XCOM, but is typically faster and provides you with more choice. Where XCOM is a very neat, clean game, Hard West is a lot messier in the best of ways. The levels are cluttered, which really plays into the panic you feel when one of your characters is caught out of cover. You really get a sense of needing to move that guy right now so he doesn't die, and the levels do an excellent job of providing a wealth of objects to hide behind. Cover works as either half or full, and you'll have a great time flipping tables over or pulling lids up to shelter you from the hail of bullets coming your way. Depending on the difficulty you've chosen, the AI's capabilities will vary. The game's quite manageable on lower settings, so if you're primarily interested in the world and its story, you might want to tackle the game on easy for your first and possibly only playthrough. Initially, the AI can seem a little dense as they'll walk out into the open during combat, until you realise that at least during the day you cast shadows, and they may have noticed that and have left their hiding spot to hunt you down. Again, I'd like to mention how unfair it is the AI gets Overwatch. Well, I don't. There's also a few options that aim to make the game more difficult, but it's not a one-sided trade-off. You can turn on persistent damage, so getting shot in the leg will hinder your mobility for a while, but in return you might get to improve your aim. The trade-offs feel fair, but in the end I preferred my characters being able to actually do things. Luck is a pretty big thing in Hard West's world, and the RNG gods will smile down upon you if you've taken the time to improve this stat. You'll gain luck from many different things, including weapons, tobacco and other items, but you'll also lose luck the more you get shot at. Your enemies also function on this sliding scale, and you can tip things in your favour if you can get a hold of an item that stops them from regenerating their pool. Hard West is packed with historically inspired guns like the Petite Derringer, the Colt Single Action Army, and even the Winchester Model 1873. They all sound and feel different, and some will have access to special actions like Ricochet or the shotgun's Cone Fire. Even guns that feature the same actions sound distinctly different from each other. I'm really pleased to see both the wide range of weapons, and that they're not just sneaky reskins of the same handful of guns. Hard West also features a card system which is available during combat scenarios. Each character can have up to 5 cards equipped to them, and they'll all provide different abilities to that character. There's cards that provide bonuses to actions, and others that will aid you by regenerating your health. They're a nice addition to the game, and they give you more options when building your characters, allowing you to try zany combos, or simply to parallel the archetypes of DPS and tank. You can even build someone with a lot of luck who'll have plenty of Pulp Fiction-esque divine intervention moments. Music in Hard West is composed by Marcin Sebiłowicz, who notably also composed the soundtrack for The Witcher 3. Marcin does a good job of incorporating spaghetti western elements into his compositions, as well as Lovecraftian-inspired eerie ambience, and it's as much of a pleasure to listen to as the rest of his work. While there's not a lot of voice acting, the narrator who injects himself into the cutscenes and scripted moments is like silk for the ears. The voice actor Playway enlisted for the task has really nailed the gravelly cowboy vibe, and paired with the large range of gun sound effects, really makes the world believable.
Days when the West was wild, anarchy ruled, and madness spread across the land.
Good quality turn-based games that take place at the squad or skirmish level don't come around too often, with XCOM probably being my favourite of recent years. Hard West combat is engaging and carries the game a long way, but this is balanced by some overworld and RPG elements that just feel a little underdeveloped. Still, the game is fantastic fun, and I don't think you'll be disappointed if you pick it up.